Thank you very much, everyone. I'm glad to see so many faces. Today, as you can see, we're going to go through Offsite Fundamentals. So we're going to be talking about what offsite construction is, introducing the main principles, and some of the things you need to know when you're designing. So offsite construction is really what you see in this picture here. So what can you notice in the picture? We've got a panel. The panel is being lifted by the crane, and the person is using a remote to operate that crane. So what we see a factory environment. It's not on site. It's protected for the elements, and also the person is not straining himself from manual handling at all. You know, he's in a healthy, safe environment, and that's really what a lot of these factories look like. What can we see from this photo? This is the CCG factory in Glasgow, which produces closed as well as open timber panels, mainly for the affordable housing sector. So what can you see? You can see all the materials neatly stacked in rows according to at what stage of the manufacturing process they are needed. You can also see a very straight line along here. Wait, I can use my pointer. You can also see a straight line along here indicating the different manufacturing stages. So we definitely know what's going to happen at each stage, what materials we need, as well as what labor we need. You may also notice a few of the screens. We have a screen there, so we have a bit of integration between manufacturing and design using CAD/CAM integration and automated files. So we've seen it in pictures, we've understood it, and now we're going to go and look at the terminologies. So why do we look at the terminology? Well, firstly, because there was you can see here from the House of Lords, Westminster government had a big consultation with companies, academics across the UK about modern methods of construction. And one of the main things that came out of that was actually that there's a real confusion in terms of terminology, with terms such as modular, offsite, prefabrication, modern methods of construction, volumetric and panelized, all being used interchangeably. Modern methods of construction. Really, modern methods of construction are about the process improvements, because their aim is to optimize the process. It's not a specific system, it's not a specific product. It doesn't matter what it is, so long as it improves the construction process. Now, offsite construction is a bit more specific. So offsite is really a way to achieve modern methods of construction, a way to achieve efficiency. So offsite construction is a method that adds substantial value to product via the manufacturing and pre-assembly of components, elements or modules in a factory before they're installed in the final location. So in other words, it's all about moving some of the work from site to the factory, where you have better control over the processes. There are four main types of offsite construction systems. We have the panelized type, which is where you have the 2D wall segments. That's the wall segments. We also have volumetric systems, where you have the 3D, what we sometimes call boxes, transported on the back of trucks and then installed on site, as well as sub-assemblies and components. That's all your I-joists or your web beam trusses, all that stuff actually counts as a sub-assembly component. And of course, hybrid systems, which combine two or more of these elements into one system, so it's more suitable for the use of that specific project. And what are the drivers for offsite construction? Well, we have sustainability as one of the leading drivers, as well as a need for a change in culture. So what does that mean? Such as business models. At the moment in the construction industry, we have very adverse contracts, which are all about blaming other parties. With offsite construction, you have more collaborative, less adverse contracts, which really help to work on projects together rather than against the different parties in the project. We also thinking about human capital, or just people, as one of the main drivers for offsite construction. As you know, we have a very big skill shortage in the industry at the moment, so it's difficult to get hold of skilled people. And so with offsite construction, you have work in the factory. You can train people up to do different tasks. So you can actually have a multi-skilled labor force, which you can then reallocate according to what work is being needed at that point. But you can also have your set labor force, so you don't need to subcontract all the time. You have the people, they're permanently employed in the factory, you know they're going to be there, you know they're going to turn up. In terms of productivity, that's another critical driver. As I said, the construction industry is actually performing very low in terms of labor productivity. So what we can have is we can use lean theory as well as automation or new technologies to improve the overall process efficiencies of the factory and of the projects. This yellow is a bit difficult to read, so this one says digitization. So that's all your building information management, that's all your CAD/CAM integration, and we're talking a lot about the fourth industrial revolution. So that's where you fully integrate your design, your manufacturing, your construction process via a digital platform. And of course, we also have the regulatory drivers. So that's really international protocols, industry standards, and we saw the example of ALVA, the fully modular volumetric project, where because of the increased requirement to achieve Section 7 goal sustainability, they had to go to a modular system. So that's one example driver of regulations as well. Now, of course, that's all the good stuff about offsite. There are some challenges involved as well, challenges and risk. The main one is really culture. So people are very resistant to change, not only the construction industry, but in general. Okay, you very often hear the words, okay, this has always been done this way, why would I change? It works, why would I want to change it? So there's really a need for change in culture. We need to work more collaboratively. We need to stop pointing fingers and blaming other people. Take responsibility, not pass down the problems down the manufacturing line. Really make sure that everything is done to a very high quality and to very high workmanship as well. So some of the challenges we face are transformational, such as project management, scheduling, and getting to grips with the skill set. Very often projects are actually, project Gantt charts, etc., are designed for the traditional methods, and then afterwards somebody decides, oh, let's use offsite, and the schedule's not adapted, etc. It just becomes a bit chaotic. Now we're going to see what types of materials we can use for offsite construction. And to be fair, you'll already be familiar with them, okay? They're the typical construction materials. So we'll start with steel. Steel is particularly suitable for large-scale projects where large spans need to be covered, okay? So where something like timber would actually give you limiting conditions. And it's a dry method, so it results in a very clean working environment. If you go, for example, to, I think, to where Phantom Park is, you know, right by the canal, there's a new project going up. You can see all the steel elements there. So that's that building method. Transportation can, however, be a challenge if you have very long components, just because of legislation. We have the same problem with twin turbines, for example. And the components cannot be easily modified on site, just because of the material properties. And of course, if you're near the sea or in a similar situation, you can have a risk of corrosion. So I really want to emphasize, as much as we call them modern methods of construction, etc., this is not anything new. It's been going on for years, and indeed, many of you will be familiar with the tall building blocks we see over Glasgow and Edinburgh. So you can see one of them, similar project being installed here. Those were all prefab. Those were all offsite as well. But it goes back even more, even to the Middle Ages. So in the Middle Ages, we had crook frame construction, where carpenters would often assemble the frames of the buildings in the yard to ensure all the elements could be put together on site, and they would leave carpenters' marks as guidance as to what components needs to be assembled when and where. So that was a really early form of offsite construction. And you may not have heard of the Nakagin Tower, which was the first capsule hotel in Tokyo. That's a very big tourist attraction if you go to Tokyo. So the idea of that tower was that you'd be able to remove these pods. These are all tiny, tiny pods. Basically, you have just a bed and then a sink next to it. But it was designed for people who are working in Tokyo, who have a very intense lifestyle, just need to crash somewhere for the night. So it was intended to be almost flexible and adaptable, so that modules can be taken off or on. In the end, that never happened. It now stays there almost as a monument. So if you're ever in Tokyo, go and have a look at that.